everybody. I missed you all yesterday, but I was out of pocket because of work. So today we're going to do a Q&A, short, not very long, but questions that have come up regarding paralegal bonuses at the end of the year, usually around a couple weeks before Christmas. Some law firms, corporations, I'm not sure who else, give bonuses. And that can range from, $100. It can go at, it can be that, or it can also be as high as 15% of your total annual salary. And in fact, that was what one person said who works for a corporation in the legal department, and that's the norm to get a bonus like that at the corporation, at that workplace. One law firm I worked with, and as luck would have it, they really stopped giving bonuses right after I was hired, and I was hired in the fall, and Christmas time came, and the people that, it was a small law firm, people that were there were kind of counting their chickens before they're hatched, that saying, and they were expecting to get their normal bonus that they had gotten in years past, but the law firm didn't bring in as much money, and but they didn't know that, and so they were counting on that money, and that's a mistake. And bonuses are given because it's out of the goodness of the heart of the law firm or the corporation, and they want to encourage people to stay there as well and keep turnover down. And it's a nice surprise, but I don't think you should ever count on it. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about something I read today that someone was asking. I have 3 years experience, and I've been offered a job in San Francisco for $100,000 as a paralegal. But understand that if you're renting an apartment in San Francisco, and a family member of mine is getting ready to go to college there and was accepted there right in the city at a university. So we're familiar with the rents and what housing costs, and a lot of people have to take in roommates. $100,000 doesn't go far in San Francisco, and so it's not like a windfall and you have all this extra money. You don't. You should look at the house prices in San Francisco. And one person said between the two people working, she and her husband, and they have graduate degrees, they can't, it's hopeless because the housing is so expensive right around the city. I mean, if you go out into the suburbs, but then we're talking about traffic, and it's like working in New York City, which I'm familiar with, having grown up 15 minutes from the city. Exactly the same. And a lot of people live in Connecticut or New Jersey, but they travel. One of my bosses traveled 2 hours one way to get to work. So it's not worth it to me personally, and it all evens out. So somebody making, $40,000 in Kansas is going to be on an even par with them, because it's more expensive to live in San Francisco than it is in Kansas or Oklahoma, okay? Or even Florida. So don't ever count on a bonus. It may be that people in the law firm will be talking about it, or the workplace, and you don't count on it, because you'll be highly disappointed if they aren't doing as well financially and they can't give the bonuses, okay? So not every workplace does that. Some people will give out, food or gifts, that type of thing, or a gift card. I just never expected it, and then I was not disappointed. So let's talk about the other topic. This question was asked about men entering the paralegal field. Honestly, it's probably 60% women, 40% men. It has at times been 70% women and even higher in the past. But men have come to understand that being a paralegal is not, like some people will say to me, isn't it a glorified secretarial job? You know, that's very demeaning. And first of all, it's not demeaning to be a secretary, a legal secretary. In fact, a lot of legal secretaries will run rings around entry-level paralegals for sure. I will guarantee you that. And some of them are doing paralegal work but don't have the title. And they don't care either. So don't ever look down on secretarial work, because part of what you do as a paralegal is just that. And it's not walking around pontificating about the finer points of torts at the law firm. You're not an attorney. You know, you can do that, but you don't walk around like that, and you don't carry a law book around and do that. There used to be a commercial that showed paralegals doing that. It's so beyond ridiculous. So that split, the 60-40, I think that's more accurate. And yes, I have worked with male paralegals in several jobs, and they were all long-term. I'm sure they're still in it. So this was all in northern Florida. I didn't work with any male paralegals in Oklahoma when I lived there. But when I moved to Florida, that's where I started seeing that, you know, and men were in the field. But I didn't see that in Oklahoma, but I'm sure it existed, okay? There's one thing that's interesting that happens when, that's interesting, I think, when you interview as a man with another man, with the male attorney, that if that male attorney is into sports, that's a good connection point. And I would make sure that if you are the man, and even if you're a woman, I mean, I'm into NBA basketball and I'm a Celtics fan. I'm not from Boston, but I'm a Celtics fan. And I love NBA basketball with watching the Celtics. But, I mean, it's just that I've been watching them for 30 years, okay? And play the Lakers, which was the great rivalry, okay? So I could talk to somebody in an interview if we got on that subject. It's kind of rare that that subject would come up, but it's a question that would be interesting to ask, whether you're male or female, and would be interesting to ask the attorney, are you into any sports? If you play golf, I would bring that up in an interview. I would. Yeah, Tavon, you know, it is more so now. If you go back, you know, you go back 30 years, it wouldn't have been the case. But that's when everything, back in the 80s, everything was changing. And that's where this career first developed. And then it took a while for attorneys to jump on board, and the older attorneys were not too keen on the whole idea, okay? And I don't mean on male paralegals. They weren't keen on the term paralegal. And then it started to change gradually. It took a long time. It took a long time to get where we are right now. So I would not hesitate. I've watched law clerks come in who were in their last year of law school, and the law clerks that were male who would get into topics of sports with the male attorneys would end up playing golf with them, and then lo and behold, they'd be hired at the law firm. So that's a really interesting take during the interview. Okay, when you're getting towards the end of the interview, possibly, and say, are you into sports at all? To the male attorney, if you're interviewing. And I don't mean to sound sexist, because females are into sports as well. You know, I think that's kind of a cool technique. You know, if I asked an attorney, are you into sports at all? Well, if I ask that in Florida, you either have Gator fans, and in this part of Florida, it's pretty much Gator. But I am a Florida State fan, primarily because my daughter went through all of her schooling there. So, and I lived in Tallahassee for a while, for quite a while. So I am a Florida State fan. So here, it wouldn't be cool to say that probably in an interview. You know, and I wouldn't go down that road. But because once you start asking that question, they're going to want to know who you're rooting for and all that. So think long and hard about that. You know, in New York, if I was in New York, I wouldn't be saying I'm a Celtics fan, because they would want me to say New Jersey Nets or the Knicks. So they'd be kind of taken aback that I was a Celtics fan. That's kind of being a traitor. So, yeah, that's an interesting thought for the interview, but you have to kind of play it by ear during that time. I feel there are no barriers to men as long as you have the skills. That's what I tell you all the time, right? And as long as you're able to say how you're going to help the attorney. And that's what I preach to you all the time. I will say it forever to understand it from that aspect, that side of it. You have to know how to say how you're going to help the attorney. If you don't, and if you're taking the tact that, well, they're going to teach me. No, they're not. They don't have time. You know, my husband and I were talking the other day, and my husband used to manage a law firm locally here, and to get the attorney to do some videos which were necessary for the website, to do some welcome videos or that type of thing, was like pulling teeth, because it took the attorney away from working on his cases. And that was vitally important, because that's what brought in the money to pay the salaries for everybody and to pay him. And so there's that focus for them always on working on cases. And that's for the paralegals too. So there's no extra time. So I want you to understand the culture of the legal workplace intimately, okay? So that you understand why there's no training in most workplaces that bring on paralegals, okay? And why I tell you to get all the knowledge you can beforehand. So while I'm on here, do you have any other questions for me? Because I really answered those too. And I think it's interesting about the bonuses, but again, never count on it, okay? I saw people counting on it, and oh my gosh, it was like they felt it was their God-given right to get a bonus. Excuse me, no, it's not. It's how well the workplace does as to whether they can give the bonus or not, okay? Hey Tara, how are you? Good to see you. Sorry if other people are making comments, because Facebook only shows, I'm surprised they're showing yours, Tavon, and Tara, because lately they haven't been showing any. And then I see them later. So I think that is it. It's kind of a short video, but if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm gonna say goodbye, and that, you know, just feel free to ask questions. Oh, somebody asked me today about calendaring and wanted to know, and I know this sounds like basic stuff, but use YouTube to learn some techie things. If you today I was learning some stuff on YouTube that are technical that I didn't know. And so become familiar with Gmail. And if you have Outlook on your computer, become familiar with that and know all the bells and whistles that are And what kind of hoops can Google Mail jump through? Learn everything about it. And you know what the most important thing is? Go find out where your Google spam folder is, because a lot of people don't know it. And you don't see it on the left? Well, there's a scroll bar over there. So make sure you know where your spam folder is, because a lot of attorneys use Google Mail. Oh, well, I'm glad to see you too. Use YouTube to find out all the nuances, all the things that Google Mail can do, all the things that Google Docs can do. Play around with it, because it's in the cloud, because you can access it from your phone or your desktop or your laptop. The attorneys are they love it. Okay, so yes, some use Outlook and that's all they use. So become familiar with it. I don't teach that. It's easy enough to find out on YouTube. Okay, so Google it or YouTube it. Search on YouTube for anything technical to help you. But push yourself beyond the basic. You have to push yourself. Don't just accept, well, I know basic Word, Microsoft Word, that'll be sufficient. No, it won't be. It won't be. The more you know, the more valuable you'll be. Yeah, you want to be invaluable to your workplace. You want to be a person that other people will come to get help. That is important. Okay, so don't think you're going to have all this downtime at the workplace where you can learn all this stuff. You really will not. I've had to learn new software over a weekend on my own time in order to get on a telephone call with my attorney and participate in a conference call about the documents being put in that software. And I had never seen that. I didn't know anything about that software, but I had to download a demo and figure it out. And I was expected to know enough by Monday for that phone call. I didn't know I was going to be on the phone call. That was kind of shocking, but I aced it. So you can do that too. And it just took diving into it. So push yourself beyond that basic, and you will command a higher dollar down the road because of all you know. And I want you to track all of that you learn. Everything you learn about Google Mail, write it down in your notebook, because you need to talk about it when you go on an interview. You do. You need to come off in the interview as somebody who's knowledgeable already, even as an entry-level paralegal. So you don't have to be perfect, but you have to talk as if you do know what you're doing. You're not faking it, but push yourself. Okay? All right. So have a great day, everybody. And any questions in the meantime that you think of later, just post them or email me at paralegalcoffeetalk@yahoo.com, and you can just email me the question and I'll use it in a video. Okay? And we'll cover it. And it helps everybody else too. Have a great one. Thanks for the question, Tavon. And I forget who asked me about the bonus, but thank you for those questions. It helps other people. Take care. Have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.